Welcome back to the Thoughtful Journeys podcast. My name is Tyler. This is Justice. Today we are recording episode 13. We are once again at Lake Thunderbird.
Beautiful day.
Yeah, beautiful day, beautiful scenery once again. And Justice actually called me last night with some inspiration for this episode, and you kind of want to go over what brought you to that?
Yeah.
What made you want to talk about individuality?
So I'm out and about, me and Marissa are hanging out with friends we haven't seen in a while, having a few drinks, and I just found myself thinking about, after hanging out with our friends, like, I'm in this place of, why do people want to conform and be, on the same wavelength about everything? Like, specifically this day brought weed up. I smoke weed every once in a while, like, I enjoy it. It specifically for me helps me stay awake for long periods of time. If I get tired, take a little tokey, keep you going, But the people we were interacting with and things I was seeing, and they're talking about using it in this, like, truly, every time I hear someone that's a big weed head talk about it, it's like always medicinal, like, savior drug, it's not addictive, all that stuff.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I hate that, dude. Like,
well, that's what, a big reason growing up is, like, all of the pushback against, like, because drugs are bad in general, everyone says that.
Right.
But then for weed, everyone was like, well, it's not addictive. It's not a gateway drug.
Right.
It's not, like, weed's different.
It's different. And I think that's complete bullshit, because it is addictive. I've seen more people addicted to weed than anything.
Yeah.
Than
Same
anything.
Me
like,
too, yeah.
Alcohol, yeah. But weed is like, every time I see someone addicted to alcohol, they have some, like, idea of, like, okay, this is addictive and I'm addicted to it. But I see someone who's, like, their personality's marijuana.
Right.
It's
which
like,
is a lot of people.
A lot of people, yeah. It's like, weed isn't addictive. It's just like fucking cure-all, and it's good because it's natural.
It's natural, yeah.
Right, and like all this. And it's like, dude, there's a lot of natural things that are poisonous. You know? There's a lot of stuff that is natural, that grows out of the ground, that is still addictive, that still can harm you. And weed is one of those things. And if you need to smoke it to eat, if you need to smoke it to sleep, if you need to wake up and the first thing you need to do and your whole day is based around smoking weed, you have a problem with it. It's addictive. You're addicted, and you need to resolve that.
But wait, it's natural, so it...
Right. So all that's X'd out because it grows out of the ground. Yeah, no. Mushrooms grow out of the ground. Some of them can kill you. Some of them can make you trip balls, and some of them give you health benefits. So it doesn't mean I'm just eating every mushroom I see, and But that's what kind of inspired me. Last night, under the influence of alcohol, and I called Hopper, and that's why we're here. And we've taken a little break because we've been trying to find inspiration. We don't want to just rinse and repeat a general idea. We want to make something that's worthwhile, worth watching, and entertaining. And we had to take a little break to find that inspiration, but I feel like I'm back, and I feel like that kind of just conversation really just got me thinking, because, that branches into so much more than just smoking weed, but the individuality aspect of it. Like, if you smoke weed, you don't have to just surround yourself with people that smoke weed and all think about it as like this savior thing that you all do to eat and all this stuff. Like, I feel like that's super.
It doesn't have to be your identity.
Right.
Yeah. And I definitely, like, I know people too that they literally before eating have to smoke before they eat, and or before they go to sleep they have to smoke in order, or they can't go to sleep. And then, like you say, that it's always the, it's not, it's a good thing for me. It's like medicine.
Right.
But no, it's not.
That's always the conversation those people have with it. And it's just, dude, if I need to do anything to eat or sleep, I'm going to figure out a way to not do that. Because
if you need anything besides water to go on with your day.
You eat some good food, drink water, that's all you should need.
Yeah.
And then I always, as someone who uses weed that's taking the stance on it, I'll wake up in the morning, I'll eat breakfast, then I'll eat lunch, then I'll get the stuff done I need to get done in that time frame. And then if I get all that done, I'll have a little smoke. 2 o'clock comes around, have just a little puff. Guess what? I don't need it to eat. I don't need it to sleep. It's because I'm not using it to fuel me through the day.
And you've already completed important tasks for your day. You're not waking up and getting high before you can do anything.
To function,
You're rewarding yourself without, earning it.
Right, yeah. And
that's how your, like, brain's taking it, with dopamine. It's like you're getting a reward for doing nothing.
Exactly.
And it's just a constant
So then you'll just continue doing nothing and just keep smoking weed and doing and then it will be, oh, I'll do that tomorrow.
Right.
Oh, I'll do that a week from now. Oh, well, today is raining, so I can't do this thing on my computer or whatever. Like, just bullshit excuses. And that's what got me thinking. That's what made me call you last night, and that's why we're here. But I think that kind of topic can go into so much more than weed, because we were just sitting down talking about jobs, and we were talking about kind of what we want to do with work and where we see ourselves and what we want our lifestyle to be, really, is what we were talking about. And I, for one, would like to make enough money to do what I want to do, but I don't want to live work.
Right.
And I know you can agree to that, and I think that relates to individuality.
Well, because I think the way you should look at it is not like I want this job because it pays this much and it'll give me the status, but what job is going to give me the lifestyle that I want to have?
Right.
Like if you planned out your perfect week, what job matches that perfect week the best?
Exactly.
Rather than just looking at the salary and how cool it's going to look to other people.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I don't think there's anything wrong with working like something like an oil field where you're working all the time, have no lifestyle, but it's temporary.
Right.
You can make a shit ton of money. You don't do shit. I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you can make a bunch of money.
Lifestyle.
Yeah, you can make a bunch of money and then go to the lifestyle that you want to have with a foundation already kind of set.
Right.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, working long hours and doing that temporarily. But I think when you're looking for, how you put it was, if you're making like 6 figures salary, your life is that job.
Right.
Like, if someone needs something done, they're calling you. It doesn't matter if it's 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
They're calling you and you need to do it. Because, you're on salary for 6 figures for the company, so they expect that out of you to live and breathe that job.
7 days a week when you're home.
Shit, bro. Like, I work at an entry-level sales job, bro, and I was just telling you how, in order to move up in the company, not even to, major positions, but just, to management or some kind of leadership, like trainer or something like that. They literally expect you to just, conform to this certain type of person that is, all in, all they care about is this company.
Right.
And it's that's not the kind of person that I don't want my life to revolve around my job.
Right.
My job is just a tool to earn me income to live the life I want to live and do the things that I want to do.
Exactly.
But a lot of people, I think, lose sight when they're looking for what they want to do long term, and it's hard. I have no idea what I want to do, because you always hear the thing too. I also don't think you should just be I think follow your passion is bullshit too, though. I think you can't just find something you like and then just dream and pray and hopefully you'll get there one day. Yeah, if you want to get something that'll sustain you and then work on that, that's great. That's fantastic. But I think rather than finding something you're passionate about, it needs to be something that you're good at.
Yeah, yeah.
And find out what your skills are and find a balance between your passion and then what you're actually good at too. Because you could be passionate about being a professional basketball player, but
you can be passionate about dressing up as being a bean and dancing around online, and people like it. And but that doesn't mean
it's going to happen for you.
Right. But I think, and I watched a YouTube video recently. In post, I'd like to put the creator that he's 1,000 subscribers. He's starting out, but he makes great content. And he did a video, and he talked about this quote from Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs gave a commencement speech at a ceremony at a college where people were graduating. And the common quote that people say that he said is do what you love. That's not what he actually said. He said, love what you do. There's a difference between those two things, and that YouTuber broke it down. And if you do what you love, you're chasing to always be happy with what your day-to-day job is, and that's never going to happen. But if you love what you do, you're keeping your mindset on the future and the difference you're making with what you're doing. So for me, loving what I do, my job, I have 2 jobs. Both of them, I would say one of them I'm doing pretty much a service kind of, and the other one I'm helping people as well, but neither of them I'm making a big difference or anything like that. But what I am doing is building something for my son and my wife and my future kids, and I love that. And that inspires me to do those things, you know?
Right.
And that video really got to me because I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, you don't just pursue, like you said, your passion or whatever you love to do, because eventually that thing you love to do is going to suck. You're not going to want to do it all the time because nobody wants to do the same thing all the time. But if you love what you do, you are going to stay motivated. You are going to stay passionate because you'll be doing different things all the time to try to secure a certain idea. And then no matter how mundane that day is, you're excited because of what the future holds.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's more about setting up things outside of work than what you're actually doing at the day-to-day job.
Right. What difference is this making for X? Because, I mean, for me, it's my family. That's what my kid, my wife, my future kids, like, that's my whole motivation. A lot of people, it could be they want to make an impact, like, culturally. Like, you know, like Steve Jobs created amazing products that actually changed the world, you know, and that's awesome. If you have the ability to do that. But I really just try to focus on what I can do for my family, you know, and that might be selfish, but that's what I feel passionate. Like, that's what I want to do, you know, is create a better. I want to take my son fishing on a boat, you know. I want to spend a vacation with them, like go 2 weeks to a different country, hang out, and not have to worry about anything because I'm not that responsible for all the shit.
Right.
Or I set something up to where someone takes care of it for me when I'm gone, like something like that. Like, that's the lifestyle I want. But I've even seen like a video from Tommy G where he goes and interviews a guy who's worth like over $100 million, owns a bunch of businesses, and that guy like says like even if he's on vacation, he's still thinking about a deal or thinking about business and stuff. I don't want that to be me. I don't want to be that way, you know.
Right. Just consumed by work, making money.
Yeah, and if that makes you happy, if that's what you want to love doing,
right?
That's cool. You know, you're creating a legacy. That's awesome. And I'd like to make money. I think everybody'd like to make money, but it's
of course, yeah.
I don't want to give my
life.
Well,
I mean, at a certain point too, it's kind of like once you get to a certain point, there's really no. It's not worth the more effort putting in to make more.
Right.
Like once you're worth multi-million dollars, like you can set that up in a way through investments and shit like that to where you and your children and maybe even their kids are going to be fine.
Right.
Good.
Right.
Not just fine, but good.
Right.
But some people are like multi-millionaires but are pushing for billionaire and stuff, and like that's consuming all their time. And like you said, if that's what you want to do, but I think money is a very powerful motivator, and it's
addictive, just like we were talking about with weed, you know. It's like that chasing that high of making this amount of money versus like being fine with what you have. And then it comes into ego when you're talking about money too, because it's like, all right, so you've made this amount, you know, you could set yourself up, set your family up, not do anything. But your social circle is continuing to buy the nicer thing that you can't, like a Bugatti versus a Lambo, you know, and then, oh, well, I got to level up to that, so I need to do this, this, and this. And I think that's where ego really comes into play.
And it's also like comparison, you know? Yeah. Because you can have a really nice car. We'll use the car as an example, and then you see someone with a nicer car, and that makes you jealous and envy them, but you just got the car that you've wanted for 10 years. Right. But it's not good enough anymore.
By that person that's doing a little bit better. And that's where I think people really get lost, because like I think I could truly, if I made like $150K a year, like if me and my wife together made $150K a year, I think I wouldn't have a fucking worry in the world. With our current like bills, living situation, and stuff like that, like I could get a piece of land near some mountains, you know, set that up.
Yeah, because you don't
really,
you don't need more. I mean, and a lot of people like from like the inspirational entrepreneurial kind of side of things, they put it in a way of like you want to set up generations of your family, but like if you do it kind of in the way that we're talking about, where you just do it to where you're good financially, really good, but you also get to focus on these other things in life. One of those things you get to focus on is parenting. And if you're doing proper parenting, your children's going to be set up way more by that than any money you could give them.
100%, because that's a great fucking point, dude. How many people that are like super affluent have shitty kids? Yeah. I mean, you see that, it's depicted in movies.
It's because they think that just because they set them up financially, they assume that that's going to set them up for a good life.
Right. but they need you there.
Good parenting is what's going to set them up for a good life, not a bunch of money.
Exactly.
I mean, like, you should always be able to give them what they need.
Right.
And if, whatever kind of discipline system you're going to have in your household, whenever they do good things, I think it's good for you to be able to afford to give them good gifts and stuff like that.
Put them in the sports and things that interest them.
And do stuff like that, for sure. But do they need to get a fucking Lambo when they're 18?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Or do they, as soon as they turn 18, do they get the trust fund of $10 million? Like,
exactly.
What is that going to do for them?
What's going to benefit them more as a person? Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's going to make them a more whole-rounded, like well-rounded person? Because I mean, you see it all the time. Even let's say music as an example. You hear people like, "Oh, they make money, you get famous, you're still unhappy," right? Like you hear that all the time, and it's like because life is so much more than the artificial things that are pushed to us for our egos. Our egos say, people need to look at you in your fancy clothes, your fancy jewelry, your fancy car, your fancy house, and that's what you need to represent to people. But like me, that's secondary. That all comes after a successful family, a successful home. Like, I can make me and Marissa could make $100,000 and have as much time with our kids as we want and set them up to be successful in anything that they want to be successful at. And even if they're not rich, even if they just make enough to be happy, but they're well-rounded and happy and they're themselves and like, that's all I ask for, man. Like there's so much that's set up in society for you to be like, oh, well, you got to do this, this, and this and especially when you get in social circles at like a certain point.
Well, and you're expected to be a certain type of, you're kind of like how you started this off, you're expected to kind of want the same things that other people want.
Right. Yeah,
like,
especially your peer group and stuff.
Yeah, because like they're just naturally going to assume that whatever they're aspiring for is the same things that you're aspiring for.
Right.
And the same things they want out of life is what you would want out of life. But it is kind of weird how it is like that way where everyone is expected to be the same and have the same, but that individuality is really, truly special. And that's, that's what's makes humans so special.
That's what can make you happy, too. Yeah. If you can be happy with your own path you set up versus happy with going the normal route, like that, then you're good.
Well, and the biggest thing is I don't even think it's necessarily that you're forced to be this way because you actually want. I don't think most people actually want like the common things that people say they want. Mm-hmm. I think they're just scared to say how they really feel and what they actually want.
True, very true.
Like they're just scared to be
themselves.
Yeah, be themselves and be a little different.
Right.
Because, in general, like obviously there's opposite ends of the spectrum, but in general, 23-year-old guys want the same things, kind of, in a general sense.
Right.
But like, there's all those individual different paths along there that all of us can take. But it just seems like everyone wants to have the same type of jobs, drive the same cars, wear the same clothes, talk the same way.
Yeah. Social media
have the same hobbies.
Yeah.
And like we talked about, another thing we talked about earlier, a big thing in our generation is drugs and partying.
Right.
And that's your identity.
Right.
Is like partying and smoking weed. Like, I know way too many people that were like, because there's a difference between you and then some other people we know that they literally they think they cannot function without weed.
Right.
And then someone that does all their stuff through the day, after you get some stuff done, you're chilling at night, smoke a little bit of weed, right? Chill out. There's a huge difference, and it's a dangerous thing.
It's dangerous, and people, we've talked about so many of these topics, but like discipline, I think, plays into this so much. Your discipline is what decides if you need it to eat or not. Like, I don't give a fuck about your family's addictive personality. Like, okay, yeah, genetically you could be prone to being addicted to something, but your brain is developing and changing, especially at our age. You stop later 20s, but like we're still growing. Our frontal lobe is expanding. We're learning how to process things. You can discipline yourself to overcome that addiction. And if you absolutely can't, you have to smoke before you eat. If you're smoking weed, you need to stop it. You know, you need to stop doing it. But if you can,
you need to get help.
Yeah. Well, you need to get help.
And you might not even need professional help, but I think something that could go a long way is just talking to one of your friends and just saying, "Hey, bro, like
being open and honest.
I need to stop this," and like not being afraid to say that you need help. Like,
right.
Hey, bro, like I want you to help me get through this.
Yeah.
I think that's very important too. That people, especially men, are. You know, it's kind of like socially structured in a way where we need to do everything on our own and be strong, but like it's okay to reach out to a friend for help.
Yeah.
That's what a friend should be there for. And it's not weak to say that you need help.
No.
Or ask for help. Especially from, and you know what? If they're like laugh at you or make fun of you for it, then dude, fuck that guy. That's not your friend.
Yeah.
But if you have a real genuine friend and you say, "Hey bro, like I've really been fucking up. I've been smoking too much weed. I have no drive. I'm not motivated. I stopped going to the gym. I'm eating like shit.
Yeah.
I fucking watching porn and beating off 10 times a day.
Right.
And bro, like I don't know what to do. Like I need to talk to someone about it, and like I need help." And if that's your real friend, they're gonna help you.
Absolutely. They're gonna listen to you and be there for you. And I think that's a big part of finding yourself too, is being open. I found more people, I won't say intimidated, but like put off by me being open about my downfalls.
Right.
Like, I'll talk about something that I did that I regret, or something I did that was stupid, or, you know, whatever. And I've had people sit across from me that I was close to just like, I feel more judged at that point than anything. It's like, because I'm talking about my downfalls, you know, like, because I do well, but I can be honest with myself and be honest with you about when I mess up.
Right.
That makes me weak. That's crazy to me. Like, that really drives me nuts, because, like, if you're not able to talk about where you messed up and what your downfalls are, then how are you yourself? Like, how do you find yourself in that? Do you know?
I think the most dangerous type of addictions and like bad habits are the ones that you try to hide from the people around you.
Absolutely.
Because at that point, I mean, you know that you're fucking up at that point, you know?
Right.
If you're hiding stuff from your wife or your best friends, or for me, it'd be my roommate, like the, you know, dude I live with. If I'm hiding shit from someone I live with that I see every day and I'm ashamed to do the things that I'm doing,
right.
With like, I don't want him to know, or like your family, like, you, at that point, that's when you know, like, you're fucking up.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think ego, going back to ego, that comes to this. Ego is such a devourer of, like, men, specifically. Like, women, it's separate. Their ego is different. It's more like, you know, I feel like women find comfort in finding people that are very, like, trying to think of how to say this. Like, men, specifically, an ego. Like, I feel like you have to represent the masculine. Like, most people want to represent this masculine identity.
Of course.
Like, I feel like you want to earn your manhood. You want to be a man. You need to represent that, right? And I think testosterone and manhood, you know, you're going to find it in your own way. But saying that you screwed up on this or being open about your emotions does not subtract from your masculinity or your manhood. It doesn't subtract from that ego you've created around that you can't talk about it because men aren't emotional or whatever, because that's being human.
Well, and there's a big difference. Like, what I think people, when they look at the bad side of that, they think of, like, you know, a girl, for instance, like a girl I'll barely know that I work with will talk to me about something and end up crying and get emotional.
Right.
As a guy, yeah, that's kind of like, okay. But if you think it's weak to, like I just said, go to your best friend and talk about how you're fucking up and be emotional and be able to cry to your best friend and, like, let them know that, and be open, like you were talking about, like, that's great.
Yeah.
Honestly, is what being open and, like, being able to tell yourself, even not even to when you're opening up to someone else, that you're being honest with yourself as well, and that's very important. And sometimes you just need that one person to tell you that they believe in you, but how are they ever going to do that if they don't know what's going on?
Right. You never give them the opportunity to, absolutely. And you don't, and I found myself thinking about that a lot because we're in this time period of our lives where everything's changing. We're growing. Everyone around us is growing, you know, and especially the world right now. Things are different than they've ever been with social media and the way society is currently.
Yeah.
It's not the whole idea, the whole archetype of what a man is, what a successful person is, all of that is completely different now. Like, there's people that make tons of money doing stuff that 20 years ago was never possible, you know, and it could be something that was completely unrespectable in that time period. Like the Hawk Tuah girl that went viral, made a ton of money from that whole situation. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, that is insane.
That would never have happened a long time ago. And that's why you can't have this like pre-existing idea of how to be, especially nowadays. Like, I feel like throughout life, you can't have a pre-existing idea how to live because you got to find yourself, and that's who you need to be. But like, especially nowadays, you can make money, you can gain all these different types of things through means that were unfathomable a while ago. And I think a lot of ways to get paid online is to lose your dignity too. To do something like, that's why you see people trying to go viral by doing stupid shit, like the guy that goes to Japan and like gets arrested for being a complete public nuisance, and like kick streamers for like that's a Kick as a whole is just a bunch of grifters that are trying to do outlandish shit to get attention. And you know, and it's just, it sucks to see that, but at the same time, if that's what they want the world to know of their negatives, you know, and stuff like that. Like, I don't mind talking about where I've messed up. I don't mind talking about where I have downfalls, but I think that they're at least not committing crimes and being a complete asshole just to get views. There's a line there too, you know. But
OnlyFans.
Oh yeah, porn bigger than it's ever been, and that's just people giving their dignity up, you know, and their private thing that's for them and people they care about too. Yeah.
I might have told this story before, maybe not on the podcast, but a friend of mine from high school, I was at we went out for his birthday like a couple of years ago, and right before we were about to go out, his fiance comes in and she's like freaking out, and she goes over to my friend, his name's Cody, and she's like, oh, what the hell? And then she comes over and shows us, and her best friend from high school and his wife, they found out were doing porn, and I just saw the look in like Cody and his wife's, or now wife, face when they just saw these people completely differently after that.
Right.
Like, because I guess like a friend of a friend told someone, and it got to her eventually. Yeah. And they were just like, whoa, what the fuck is this? So they figure out that her friend and his wife are doing porn. These friends, you know, since high school. Kind of just, they're both like shocked. And just for context, Cody and his wife, they're Christian. They're amazing people. They're not one of those hypocritical. Yeah. They're religious. You know, that's who they are. That's what they believe in. Yeah. They didn't have sex till marriage. Like this. Right. They're really honest, genuine, good people, traditional people. And these friends were people that went to church with them. Right. And like they thought had those same like values, and like they were like supposedly these people that were walking that path of life with them. Yeah. Just to find out they were making videos on Pornhub. Right. And it wasn't like, oh, this one video. They had like a whole page of like porn I think they were doing. That's
a big difference too, is if you are
they were showing one thing and doing another.
If you're a hypocrite, right. Because if you own it, like you're owning it. Your daily life, like I'm a Christian and I do porn. Like that's aware. Yeah. Okay, I can respect that because you're owning it. But if it's a thing where you're presenting this face to people, and then in the background, you're doing this thing, that is where I could see, like, especially in that specific traditional like thing, because I can compare that to the whole Sketch situation that happened, where Sketch got, you know, he was an gay OnlyFans model, came out, he owned it. People don't give a shit. But if he was a hypocrite, if he was like on stream, like, you know, being gay is wrong, whatever, and then it comes out he was a gay OnlyFans model, then it's like, okay, yeah, dude, what the fuck, you know, I think that's a big part, and that can even circle back to individuality and presenting yourself as who you are versus who you want people to accept you as. And then finding comfort. I feel like a big part of life that I've realized too is people really find comfort in ignorance. People.
Well, yeah.
And it's just brutal.
Well, I think, you know, the older I get, not that I'm old, I'm 23, but just saying I'll say from like 18 to 23.
Yeah.
I'd say each year I've learned more and more about life, like at pretty big leaps.
For sure.
I feel like most people from 18 to like 25, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But just, you're making every year, you know, everything's kind of moving so fast. You go out of from being a kid to growing up. So things move fast. You grow up faster, you know.
Yeah.
You learn things faster, and just all the time I'm thinking, man, like remembering back about how much easier it was to be comfortable and happy when I didn't know as much.
Right.
But at the same time, you know, I want wisdom. I want to learn, and I want to, you know, that's a big thing for me. But there really is ignorance. It really is bliss. You know.
Yeah.
That's a saying for a reason. I've learned that more and more.
Absolutely. But because I find comfort in knowing how things are so I can prepare, because my whole, like, when I'm thinking about the future, I'm thinking about my kids, I'm thinking about my family. And if I'm not aware of how things are, I can't properly prepare them to be the people they need to be successful or be happy, you know? So that's where I find comfort in researching things that people generally don't want, like water quality. It's a fucking horrible rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Food in America.
Yeah. Horrible, scary rabbit hole. Most people do not want to acknowledge it or talk about it.
Yeah. I feel like most people know it's bad, but I feel like they're scared to like really look into it.
Well, and especially we're young, so we have the benefit and advantage of saying we're young and we can make a difference now. Like someone like our parents are old enough that they've done it for so long.
Yeah.
They have the health impacts. They've done it. They have the issues that come along with it. So if they acknowledge it, they acknowledge all the damage they've done.
Yeah.
And especially with like people from the 80s, it's like, you know, everything was very idealistic, fit the mold, it seems like, in that time period. Like, something so interesting. I was thinking about this when I was working outside the other day. Like, the 80s were a peak time, the 70s and 80s were a peak time of individuality, a peak time of people expressing themselves in different ways. 70s specifically, 80s was more so people started doing, like, everyone had big hair, everyone had similar interests. 70s was more unique, but those people that grew up in that time period are now pushing conformity more than my grandparents, you know? And like, that blows my mind because it's like you grew up in this time that's defined by how unique it was. And that's what makes you enjoy thinking back on that time period. But then you like thinking about your kids, your grandkids, you want them to conform more than anything. That I don't understand that. And I think a lot of that leans into it's scary for the unknown, but what works, what people will accept you for is just conforming.
Yeah.
You know, you go to school, people are going to be more...
Well, I think that's selfish on the parents' part, too.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't think they're doing it because they want to fuck their kid over, but they're doing it because, one, it's how they were raised.
Right.
I feel like a lot of the time that's the case. And then, two, like, they want their kid to be what they want them to be.
Yeah.
Like whatever the parent wants the kid to be, that's what they want them to be. They don't want the kid to be what they want to be.
Yeah.
They want the kid to be how they see it in their eyes.
Right.
They want the kid to live their life through the parents.
Do what I did.
Yeah.
And okay, let's say in defense of the parent, because I completely agree with you, but thinking from their shoes, right? Like their vision. Like, okay, I did this for my life. This is what I was really good at. I want to pass what I've learned from that on to my kid. But if your kid says, I don't want to do that, you have to be willing to say, okay, what do you want to do? Or, I really think, we talked about this.
Or asking why.
Exactly. Why? It's such an important question. And I even said this to Marissa the other night. Whenever you tell your kid, like, something and you say, well, I'm the parent, so that's what it is, you're immediately discouraging your kid from asking why. I was
literally about to say that. That's what it made me think that a response. I love my mom. My mom was an amazing mother. I still have a really good relationship with her, but when I was really young, not as much when I got up into high school and stuff, but like I really like vividly remember a common response being, because I'm your mom and because I said so.
Right.
Like that's why. Whenever I would ask like why not or why, that was the answer. And I think that's a very, very bad answer because it, like you said, it discourages them thinking about things.
Discourages them from asking questions.
That I want in the future, I want my children to know it's not only is it okay, I encourage you to ask why.
Right.
I want you to ask why, and I want you to try to figure those things out.
Yeah.
Like I want you to think about those kind of things and be able to think freely.
Process it for yourself.
Yeah, process everything. Yeah.
And if you can't, like, and that's, I feel like, a big part of why this individuality, this ego, these things we're talking about are so persistent problems and so consistently bad, and we see people consistently struggle with these things, is because it's like, for generations and generations in America, we've had people that were grown up that way, where it's just like, go in this line, this is a path, don't ask any questions. Like the whole episode we did about education, the whole school system's designed around keeping people to think that way. Like, but once you get a generation of people that ask why, that think outside the box, that instead of following a path, find their own, you make change. You have new things happen. That's the best people, the people who've innovated the most, that have made the most difference, are the people that have taken their own path and found their own way. And I can tell you right now that most of those people that have made true change and made true difference don't come from a place of ignorance. You know, they come from a place of true interest. You know, they come from a place of seeking as much knowledge as possible, so you can then make the biggest difference. Because you can't make a true change if you don't know what what's happening. If you don't have a real concept of what life is.
If you can instill that from a young age, I mean.
They're gonna, whatever they're good at. Like, even if it's dancing around, like I used the example earlier, like you dress up as a bean and your whole persona online is your bean. Even if that is what they end up doing, they're gonna be fucking really good at it in some way, because that's what they chose. And
it's because I think more rather than what you are, it's more about who you are. You know.
Yeah.
Like what I am, I work at Verizon, and I'm a 23-year-old from Oklahoma. That's what I am, but that's not who I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like anyone, I feel like when you ask like people or when you have small talk with someone, it's always like, where are you from? How old are you? Like all these very like simple like, what are you questions rather than who are you?
Yeah.
Because a person is so much more than that. A lot of people don't even they don't even know. Like they could never, like you ask them, we were talking about someone in the car ride over here, and I was like, man, if I asked this person a philosophical question about life, I don't even think anything would come to their brain.
Right. Yeah.
Because just having a normal conversation about anything, it's just it hurts.
Right.
To just have that conversation.
Yeah.
You could tell that. Not that it's just there's no thought behind it.
Right.
There's no.
You're just going.
Yeah, it's just there's a preconceived answer for every question I'm about to ask.
Right. Right.
There's not you hear the question, you're like, interesting.
Own,
draw.
Yeah.
There's I asked this question, boom, here's this answer that's already there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But something about the whole parenting thing we just talked about, and being able to ask why, and for thinking, I might try to clip it in this episode. If not, I'll definitely link the entire podcast in it. It was a Tucker Carlson podcast, but I think I actually sent it to you. It was this lady and her brother. They were both in some kind of medical field.
Okay. Yeah.
They quit the medical expertise because they find out the system's bullshit.
Right.
Very similar to that surgeon we've talked about before.
Right.
But in that, there's a section in that podcast where they talk about, because hearing this was an amazing podcast conversation, and just the way they think about things, they credited that to their parenting, and there's a whole section where they talk about how their parents raised them, and the way they talk about it is just so beautiful.
That's awesome.
I'm going to show you after this, and I'm going to try to clip it in this. If not, I'll link it in the video. But man, that really got me thinking about like whenever I have kids, like how I want them to be able to think for themselves and ask the questions why, and not just live on this standard path and kind of just conform.
Bro, and the main reason I come from this place of like interest and trying to figure things out and wanting to know about stuff that might be difficult to know about is if something bad happens, I want to be able to get my kids out of that situation. You know what I mean? Like if countries go to war, if things like that happen, I don't spend my day stressing about that by any means. It's the last thing on my mind. But if whatever negative could happen that has happened in the past, like you look at the history, bad things have happened all throughout history. There's good times, there's bad times, you know? If you don't have a good idea of what real life is and how bad things have been and what people in power do to the people that throughout history, it's always been that way.
Right.
You know, if you don't look at life through that lens, your kid is going to be stuck in a situation and you're just going to be like, good luck, you know, versus like, oh, this is happening. Let's go to this country and like do this. And you know, like, it's just.
Well, even I would say that's, you know, like, that's like on the further end of things, but even like if it's something like when COVID hit and the economy got bad.
Right.
And they had to do schooling online, instead of, you have a different plan besides just setting them on their iPad and playing games all day. You know, like you get to use that time to actually teach them and grow them into a good person. You know,
real life lessons. And
it's
stuff.
not just, oh fuck, I don't get to send them to school for 8 hours now. I actually got to spend time with my kid.
Yeah.
You know, which just having a plan for what you're going to do with your kid and how you want to raise them and what kind of values you want them to have. And you know what? Because I think there's two ends of this, and maybe I'm not like 100% convicted on it, but like I really do believe that your parenting, I don't think there's anything wrong with like setting up your parenting in a way where you're going to try to give your kid these certain set of values and stuff.
Right.
Now, like, don't tell them what to like and not like. Tell them you have to play sports.
Right.
You have to play this sport. But like, in general, I think if you're doing parenting right, they're going to come out with these certain values.
Right, right.
And if you want them to have the values you have, it's your child, man. Like, you can do that. I think you have the right to that. I mean.
Well, and speaking of parenting, speaking of ignorance is bliss, and me and Marissa's recent interaction with a lot of people, you know how many people have been like shocked that we're not creating a separate room for the baby to sleep in? You know how many people have been like genuinely like, what? Like people we work with and stuff, like you're not putting them in a separate room for the first year and a half? Like, no, they're going to be, you know, newborn and be in the bedroom with us. Like, we have a co-sleeper and we have a thing where they can sleep in our bed, and if we feel like worried if we're going to roll over or something, we have a little bed we put in our bed that they can, you know, he can sleep in, and we do that. Like, how many people have been like, are you crazy? Like, genuinely,
really?
Like, yeah, like that's how deep ignorance is bliss goes. To your baby, because like a baby, it just wants to be nurtured. That's all a baby is looking for, is just to be taken care of and nurtured. You set them in a room across the house or across from you where they feel just no warmth, you're not around, it's just cold, they feel alone. Like, the baby doesn't know anything. It's like that obviously, that I feel like in my mind that's destructive, not constructive in any way, but like so many people have been like, what are you like, what are you doing? Like, that's how deep the ignorance is bliss and parenting and stuff like that goes. And I think leading by example is where you start, like especially with what you're talking about, like instilling values. I think those values come from
actions, not just telling them what to believe.
Absolutely. Like if they ask you and they say, oh, okay, what do you think about this? You tell them. But when they see you live that over and over and over again.
And not only live that, but they see you're living the values, but while you're living those values are making you happy, making you successful, making you be able to do all these awesome things for your kid. And it's like, you can show that throughout their childhood. You don't know. Because I think a big thing with like values people try to do is like with religion, is like they'll beat down religion on a kid, and then a lot of times those kids branch off like and end up hating
and rebel,
hating religion. My roommate's an example of that, where parents just try to beat it into them, and that makes them hate religion.
Right.
But hey, let's say you're a Christian, and that's who you are, and that's what you stand for, and that's what you believe in. And you wake up every day, you're super positive, you're happy, you're taking care of your family, you're providing, you're healthy, you're just in a strong, like you have good energy, and like just like you're sending off good energy into the world, and they can see like the light in you, you know, and if they see that growing up, that'll make them want to be a Christian more than you telling them you got to go to church Sunday.
Right.
It's about how you live. Because I actually heard a quote the other day that, you know, I think it's just really true, is like, don't take advice from someone that you wouldn't want to trade places with. So if you're not living a life that they would want to have in the future, they're probably not going to take your advice.
Right. That's a great point. Yeah.
So like, and that's just as someone taking advice too, if that's not a person that you'd switch places with, then why are you taking advice from them?
Exactly. That's a really good point.
Especially from like a mentorship perspective. If it's someone like 20 years older than you, if they're they're completely different of what you're going to want in the future, why are you taking advice from them?
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people find fear in not having a path, you know, and like, I think having a path, because college is like the main thing. Like you go through school, you go to college, you get a job. I respect that. I do. I'm not shitting on that. Like if you want to do that and that's what makes you happy, do it. But for me, like I want to find my own way. I have my goals set, and I'm going to find a way to that without taking a traditional route. If I end up having to lean on that traditional route, like I've talked about going to school before, I might go to school in the future if I stick with the DHS route, you know, but like I really just, you got to find your own way. You set your goal and then you find your way to it. You don't just follow whatever has worked.
Yeah.
You can take what's worked and build your own thing off of it, but just consistently going in the direction of what always has been done and what always has worked just leads to mediocrity.
Everyone's story is going to be different.
Yeah.
Even if it leads to a similar outcome.
Right.
Because a lot of life too is just opportunity and chance. Like you could follow the exact same steps as Steve Jobs. You could be just as smart as Steve Jobs and work just as hard as he did, but maybe you don't get the same opportunities or you don't meet the same person he does, just out of complete luck and chance.
Absolutely.
So then you end up broke trying to create a startup business instead of creating Apple.
That's a wonderful point, Hopper, because I think that applies to especially creative things too. Like what defines an artist besides the circumstances that they were in when they were an artist?
Right.
Like if you become famous, it's because someone with influence noticed you and put you on.
Yeah.
You know, and same thing with this. Like the only way any of this that we're doing works is if someone notices it or enough people notice it and try to and push it, you know?
Yeah.
But if it doesn't get in front of the people that would do that, then it's not going to happen.
Right.
And that's just what it's all circumstantial. It just happens. It's not something you can force. It just put in the work, and whatever's supposed to happen, be open to different opportunities, and it will work, you know? But I find myself thinking that a lot, where it's just, I don't need a path. I don't need this direct line to like my family being happy and being successful. I'm going to set everything up and work as hard as I can to make that happen, but I have no preconceived notion of how it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think there's good to set general rules for sure and have some discipline and structure.
Values and outlines and goals.
Yeah, like an outline or a structure of how you're going to live your life. I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think you shouldn't just go into life like it's an accident.
Right.
You know, go into every day just, you know,
what's that person you reference where they have a preconceived idea they would tell you every time you ask a question versus like they're living that life. Yeah.
I really just this whole conversation is I feel like really necessary. I'm glad that you were inspired to
absolutely
go down this, dude, because it's really got me thinking, man, honestly, because a lot of times I really struggle, you know, about just going down the path or sleepwalking, you know,
Right.
through life.
Right.
I've talked about this before, and it's hard, dude. But I feel like a big part of it, we could find a lot of those answers in the conversation we had today.
Absolutely.
Maybe even some answers I answered for myself, you know, through talking.
They're just expressing yourself.
Yeah. But
that's ego and individuality are two completely separate things, and I think ego really corrupts a lot of people's idea of success. And I think individuality gives you the keys to do what you want to do and be who you want to be and be successful in your own way. And if you live your whole life in fear of individuality and being yourself and standing out, then you're never going to be successful, truly. Yeah.
So, if you want to keep it off the record, that's okay.
Okay.
But do you want to go over what exactly inspired this that happened last night?
We were around people we hadn't seen in a long time, and they're all discussing why smoking weed while you're pregnant is a good thing. And that put my wife into tears on the car ride home, you know? And that put me in just this, like, I was just thinking, like, I was a little intoxicated, but I was just like, why is that? Just because weed is natural, just because it's said not to be addictive, just because of those things, you risk jeopardizing your baby's health. Even
Right.
if it turns out that it doesn't cause any problems, I'm still not going to take any chances to risk their well-being, you know? And that's just had my wife being tearful and being upset and just all that. That's really what inspired this.
Yeah, when you first told me that, I was... it was just crazy. I don't know, man, like, thinking about that, and I understand why, you know, Marissa's pregnant, so obviously she's emotional in general, but yeah, like, it's being someone that is pregnant and then hearing other people that are doing that, yeah, it's... Because like you said, even if, which I doubt, it's completely healthy for the child.
Right. Because smoking
is it even
bad.
worth the risk?
Right, no.
Of it being like a potential like health problem for your child?
To be buzzed, and especially when you have a tolerance to weed, to not feel anything, because that's what it is. Like, you're just smoking to feel normal. You're not even feeling, you're not even doing anything. You're just doing damage. Like, I don't know. That was frustrating, and I want to say, though, put on the record for sure, is that Marissa, you're the best mom, you're the best wife, and you're the best person I could have ever asked to be partners with, and I respect her so much, and I'm so happy that she is my person, man, because she's so wholesome, she's so good, and we had our baby shower last weekend, and so many genuinely nice, beautiful things were said to us, and my response to, like, everybody was just, it's thanks to her. Like, I'm so thankful for my wife, and I'm so thankful for the person she is. And
hey, y'all inspire me, man.
Thank you, brother.
Give me hope.
Thank you, brother.
For my future, because I've talked to you before and on the podcast how, you know, sometimes I meet girls and I'm like, man, this is going to be really hard.
Right, yeah.
Dating is going to be, finding that person is going to be really hard, but y'all really do inspire me and give me hope.
And you never start from a place of knowing that that's that person. You figure it out over time, but, like, you know, love stories always go, like, you see the person and then, oh yeah, is it done?
Well, I guess now it is.
Yeah.
But that was kind of like, hey, about to wrap up. I can cut out.
Yeah,
we have 2 minutes left.
Do it when I said talking about Marissa.
I can cut and then go to the next part.
Yeah.
So what? No, we'll finish.
Oh, I don't even remember what I was saying. I will throw this in off the record. Probably won't add this into the video. I've been microdosing mushrooms like Zins and putting them in my gum, keeping them in my gum for the day. I tell you what, I've been enjoying that.
Okay. Thank you guys for watching today. We really appreciate all the views and likes and support we get, and we hope to continue to grow the channel and create more inspiring podcasts with thoughtful conversations.
Yeah, and
so.
we're never going to feed you just generic garbage. That's why we've taken a break, and you can rely that we're going to make inspired content, because I'm not going to make anything if I'm not inspired.
Yeah.
So.
And we're not just here trying to complain and talk about bullshit, you know.
Yeah.
These are just the conversations that we had before there was ever a camera there.
Right.
And
That's what started this.
Yeah, we were just like, man, I feel like this could really, you know, reach some people. So, but yeah.